okay with everyone else?
And then I'll move the ball. Yeah, no, really great. It's a very popular topic. With a lot of being so IT savvy to parents.
Yeah.
Okay then.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for allowing me to come and talk tonight to the Community Council relating to StreetBeat and what we're doing and the reason why I'm here. I'd also like to thank PJ from Canberra Community Bank Regions, Bendigo Bank, who is part of the Good Loop Mutual contingent that is a major sponsor for StreetBeat, along with St John's Ambulance ACT. What we've developed through Good Loop was an initiative to actually provide a public accessible AED in every suburb. That was our dream. Recently, on the 7th of May, we announced funding by 2 philanthropists, one from overseas and a local person, Nat Franklin, who has kindly donated enough funding to actually achieve our goals, which means we have 77 more public accessible street beats to put out in the community. Now that's great, except I know where I live and where a good spot would be for one. I'm not sure where all the other suburbs where they could go or what's suitable. So for example, in my suburb, our local shops, which has been the traditional spot for them, is run down, has an illegal tobacco store, and that's about it. But around the corner, there's a community hall that's well accessed, well lit up, has cameras, and on a main street. So we'll be placing one in there. What I need to know, what I would like to know is equally, where in your community would you like to see one, given that we'll be putting all in all 124 across Canberra. So sudden cardiac arrest can happen anywhere at any time and often with no warning. When it does happen, the actions taken in the first few minutes can be the difference between life and death. StreetBeat exists to make sure communities are better prepared, and that preparation starts with the local people, yourself. Sudden cardiac arrest can happen, and it does not wait for an ambulance. It does not wait for you to be in hospital. And it can happen in shopping centres, sports grounds, streets, parks, community halls, workplaces, and in your home. In many cases, bystanders are the first and only people present in the critical minutes. Now, realistically, you have less than 4 minutes to survive a cardiac arrest without intervention. 4 minutes. 10 minutes, you're dead. That's it, you know. And as the time goes on, the chances lessen. The quicker we can get an AED on someone in a cardiac arrest, the more chance of survival. A public accessible defibrillator AED gives ordinary people to act immediately. To help explain what an AED and how it works and how simple it is to use, I brought my trainer along and I'd like to demonstrate this. So StreetBeat itself is a tall red cabinet, if you've seen them around. Leon, I know, has. This will not shock anyone. It is a training one, but what it will do is it'll tell you and show you how you do it. So first of all, you've got these pads here. Does anyone know where they need to go if someone's had their cardiac arrest? There, that's correct. Also, you will need to remove clothing. Now, a lot of people are reluctant to remove clothing off women. When we do our training courses, there's not a single woman who said, please don't take my bra off. I'd rather be dead. Not a single person. So we have then, St John's brought in some dummies that actually have boobs to give people the experience of what it's like if they do that. Clearly you want to keep the patient a bit, you know, covered if you can, but you'd rather save their lives. So these just go, this will tell you where, one here, And you put that on, and then you press the green button, which will turn this on.
Call for help.
First thing to
Don't
do
touch patient.
is call
Analyzing
0,
heart rhythm.
and this will analyze your heart rhythm.
Shock advised. Don't touch patient. Charging. Press flashing shock button. Shock delivered. Begin CPR.
So the ones in StreetBeat look like this, but they will actually deliver a shock. And they will take you through the program of what to do. So the first things you need to do, obviously you look for danger to yourself. If the person is responding, they're breathing, they've got clear airways, and if not, call for help. And then start, get your AED and start using it. To do compressions, hands like that in the middle of the chest. It's not difficult to do, it is tiring to do. So if you don't call for help, then you're going to be there for a long time. Okay.
When you take this out of whatever it is on the street, is it alarming as well?
There has an alarm there. Now currently in ACT, at the moment, we don't have a system where it goes back to 000.
No, it alerts other people.
It will alert people around you. So currently, for example, we had one that was not used or deployed, we'd like to say, but was removed from a local community and taken to a home for someone that they thought was having a cardiac arrest, but the ambulance got there. They opened the chemist door and said, hey, I'm grabbing the AED, my dad's in trouble, and I live 5 doors down. And they took it, ran with it, not deployed, and then they brought it back the next day. These are all tracked, so we know exactly where they are at all times. And if people do take them, we do find them.
Are they on an app if you want to find where one is?
At the moment, no. There is an app called the Good Sam app.
Yeah, not here.
It's in New South Wales. It's not in the ACT. We're working with ACT government and ACTAS to bring that in, and then that will get divided. But also working with Google to try and get them on Google. That is a lot harder than what one would think it is. Sorry?
Emergency Plus. The app.
There's a
What's the
St.
words?
John's app as well, the Emergency Plus. So we will be rolling them out and looking at it, but we're hoping to get all of them on Good Sam, because that will, as soon as that's deployed, it will alert 000 straight away as well. So
Can they be vandalised?
they can be vandalised, and they have been vandalised. Studies and research shows that the more we put in the community, the less likely they will be vandalised. Equally, I have a survey here for people to fill out, and what we're also looking for is those around a champion in your community to go in and check on, like, walk past, if you walk your dog past it, or drop your kids off at school, or go into the local shop, have a look at it. You know, is it still in the box? Has it been graffitied? And then send us an email about it saying it's been vandalised or graffitied.
Did you want us to scan that?
You can
as you
scan
pass it
that. There's a
around?
survey, and if you want to put out your email address, then we'll be in contact with where we're going to put them. The key thing is to find out where people feel they should be in your local community at the moment.
What happens with insurance in terms of if they are damaged or destroyed in some way?
So at the moment, our community bank in Canberra region, Goodwood and St. John, have a MOU together where we're funding those. Every once a year in November, we do a 1 month campaign to fundraise for StreetBeat. So currently all the StreetBeats, the 46 that are in the community at this point in time, have all been funded by individuals, Rotary clubs, community clubs, capital chemists. And we're shifting a bit to where we're fundraising for ongoing maintenance. So every 4 years, the batteries need to be replaced, and these need to be replaced. Equally, they are fully monitored. And that's a monthly cost, which is being steadily absorbed by Goodley Mutual, supported by Community Bank, Canberra Regions and St John's Ambulance. So there will be a campaign in November to raise more funds for StreetBeat, which will go into a maintenance mode in another 12 months. So effectively, what I'm asking today is information on StreetBeat, if you want to be engaged, want further information on it, where you feel it would be in your community, by taking a few minutes to do the survey, or looking up for us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page called StreetBeat, and you can put posts up there, or say, I'd like one in this street. And eventually we're aiming for sports grounds and things like that, because it's actually young people that have cardiac arrest. Normally young males from the age of 15 through to about 30 that are really highly active, get dehydrated, overdo it, push their heart rate up too much, and they are the ones.
Like in general.
Yeah.
Condition.
Yeah. So anyone can actually have a cardiac arrest. It's not like a heart attack, which is plumbing.
I think we just have to change the way we do things because someone had a heart attack. I am running so.
Yeah. A lot of sporting clubs will have them as part of their first aid kit, but then they pack them up and take them home. And
Yes,
the instance in Canberra and Queanbeyan where we had a 15-year-old played sport, then went and played netball at a local netball community in Googong, had a heart attack. There was a nurse on standby and an AED available. He survived. He's now gone on and raised $7,500 and will be putting 3 StreetBeats in the Queanbeyan region in the next month. The other story is a young man who didn't, had played sport all day, soccer, was playing basketball, no one knew what to do, and he died. Now the family have just started a foundation. His parents were doctors, to help other young people to educate and come in for heart testing freely on the weekends. So it does happen, and it happens more than we think it does.
Is your aim to try and get one of these in every street?
Not in every street. I think the ongoing maintenance of that is beyond our financial capabilities.
Yes, I would have thought so.
But certainly one in every suburb to begin with, and one at sporting events. So that's 2 in your suburb. Suburbs like Canberra, which is quite a big suburb, there'll probably be 3. And we've already got 2 in Woniya, so that were individually sponsored, one at Capital Chemist and one at the Arundel area as well. But by all means, if other people want to sponsor them and have them closer in their community.
Have you got much take up from like sporting clubs?
We're starting to get inquiries now because we did the big launch and we got quite a lot of media, good media around the StreetBeat program. This is only the 2nd year it's running, that it's been kicked off. So to have 46 in the community in 2 years is pretty amazing, and then to have another 77 rolled out in the next 12 months, it's still phenomenal. But we are hoping, and we'll be campaigning with government to ideally put one in regular major bus stops in the future, sort of thing, or something like that. London has put them in their old telephone boxes. And so yeah.
Well, that's a good idea. They're not supposed to buy it.
And to add to that as well, once we've covered all the suburbs, that will make Canberra the first city in the world to have freely available AEDs to general public.
In residential suburbs for the public, 24 hours, 7 days a week.
And if we want to have an extra one, I mean, I can already see for Reed, and I'm just speaking for Reed, sports ground definitely, and one other one. But there's also 2 gardens, Dirwin and Giril, and they have a tennis court, and the other one has that same one has a tennis court plus a childcare centre. And I would tend to think that at least I can see another. Can we buy a 3rd one? Can we?
You can
When you find
fundraise
it, so
for
when you
them.
find it,
It's
yeah.
part of the program in November. I think 16th of October we launch a part of what's it part of a program in November where we actively fundraise. So we'll have a website, streetbeat.com.au,
Streetbeat.live.
streetbeat.live,
Yep.
until I haven't been here that long. And you can go online, you can register as a fundraiser and you can actually get your community to fundraise. And that's where the Rotary Sundowners Hackett community fundraised. And Rotary's put 2 in, one in Braddon and one in Narrabundah. Hackett community fundraised and have one in their own. Flory Neighbourhood Watches fundraised and put one in theirs. So in November you can actually fundraise. And what happens there is you'll fundraise for the AED and Good Loop will provide $1,000 towards the cabinet and future maintenance and things like that.
So if you fundraise, if you're proactive and fundraise and got one into your meeting, does that disqualify you from the rollout of your program?
No.
They'll end up with 2.
Yeah, they'll just be spaced apart. And
Yeah.
so far we've been consulting. So for the people that have actually fundraised individually, they get acknowledged in a sticker on the StreetBeat. And we meet with them and with ACT government. At the same time, we walk around the community and decide where they're going to go.
So do you have a reasonable estimate of cost if we wanted to fundraise?
So currently, the November program for this year, you need to fundraise $2,500 to have one in your street.
The Hackett Community Association.
Really good.
You think sports clubs?
Yeah,
guys
the
and
AZ
drink
Footy Club should be able to put one.
Oh, should be able to put 17.
Yeah.
Jesus.
We're spending all their money on those houses. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of those old
No,
people,
usually-
pulling the arm of the pokies, and then they get stressed out. They're hard. Just thinking,
The Hackett Community
That's where it should be,
Association
yeah.
raised about 2,500 to 3,000, and
That
that
is
was
correct.
from the businesses at the shops,
Yes.
plus some residents.
Yeah, maybe we should put something out to all the communities.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, just say,
That'd be nice.
mobile, let's.
Yeah, and it's StreetBeat Live.
Yeah, streetbeat.live. Like
Yeah.
it's live right now as well. You guys can look at
I
it.
think if we could get some content, like if you wanted to put a little message on a website, would you have a piece of content that
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could just spread it through our different websites?
yeah, that'll be great because that's what we want to do. Reach out to the community and.
What we might do is there any questions off the internet?
I haven't heard anything. I have no comments yet, but if anyone wants to speak.
Anyone online zooming in? Have you got a question about StreetBeat?
Do you know where they are in your community?
Good question.
There's not going to be inside shops though all the time.
No.
They like Capital Chemist will have one if there is.
No, these ones, so Capital Chemists would have their own,
Yes.
like a school would have their one and a lot of businesses. These are standing outside in a red cabinet that looks like a kind of like post box.
Yeah.
And they are fully accessible 24 hours, 7 days a week.
And I think they have to be located on actually ACT government land.
They do, although we have had a couple of
Yeah,
businesses.
so it's, sorry. go on.
Yeah, we have had a couple of businesses that have fundraised or donated and it's gone in front of their business. So there's a business in Fishwick that's done that. So it's accessible off a main road in a car park, sort of thing. But ideally on government land because there's less paperwork. And
And how
we've
do
got
they-
a permit with them.
How do you mount the cabinet?
We have a gentleman from Jim's building that we've engaged, and if it's cement, it goes bolted, dyno bolted straight on the ground. And if we need a cement pad, he will go out and put a cement pad down and then come back and put the cabinet into it.
Okay.
So yeah.
I think we've located the Hackett one just where there are cameras
Yes.
from the supermarket.
Yeah, I think that most supermarkets, I think local IGAs or whatever in our suburbs.
Yeah, so it's actually protected visually as well as.
Yeah, and that's come in handy
Yeah,
when
of
we've
course,
had
yeah.
them taken. We had one person took one in O'Connor shops. And we had video footage from the imaging, but also that person then had it for 6 weeks.
No, I
Went
just
from
thought-
drug house to drug house to drug house, clearly trying to sell it. And so when the police went in,
We're calling through this.
actually, Anderson and I point out,
Oh, yeah, that's it, that's
Yeah.
the drug deal.
he lived in Brisbane and come to Canada. We could actually watch it move along the road. And eventually
From the Pizza Hut.
the police did get caught up with him. And other than the pads being damaged, it was fine. So we've repurposed that into another AED. But then the police have got all this information about where he went to.
Deal.
I think the one that was stolen in Dixon was retrieved in the McDonald's Pacific.
Yeah, but it was completely destroyed, that one. Yeah. There is a funny story
out there and more people see them, the less likely. I think
Yeah,
they
and the
see
more
them
the
in other
community
people's
is aware, and this is where
Mm.
TJ and I going around talking to community, building that awareness, building that ownership of having one in your environment and keeping an eye on it. And if something goes wrong, come back to us, because easily having Capital Chemists as our first major sponsor, they put them in front of their chemists. So we call them up if something happens as our first point of call. What we're looking for is someone in the community that we can say, hey, StreetBeat on the corner of your street has gone missing. Can you just check on it, see if it's lying around or if someone's in need or something like that. And once Good Sam comes out and you've done your training, if you want to, you can be one of those people that can respond to a cardiac arrest in your community.
Can I ask what sort of movement you're getting with the Good Sam app here in the ACT?
Pretty good.
Written to
it's-
MLAs about it.
Yeah, so Tamers has raised it in the Legislative Assembly. So he's an MLA down
Yep.
south. I, full disclosure, worked for the Labor Party for over 13 years, and was actually just at a meeting prior to coming here. So traction's really good and interest is really high. What's not there is funding. But equally, ACTAS, the head of ACTAS, ACT Ambulance Services, is very keen to enact it as well. So we've got two streams, so we've got two prongs, I guess, driving it. And the great thing about the AEDs that we have put in Canberra, first of all, the first ones we put in the ACT didn't handle the cold, and they died. So we've got these, we've got these really good ones now that can go down to -10. But equally, there's all this API involved in these ones, so they will talk to Good Sam Direct and also to ACT Ambulance in the future.
What's the Good Sam app?
Good Sam is you can be a good Samaritan who wants to sign up to an app if there's an incident in your local area.
With training.
With training, you can go and be the first responder until the ambulance gets there. It's like in the ACT.
So
Day to get there.
yeah, so I carry a live one in my vehicle, and I'm not on the Good Sam app, but my husband is, so he can switch on and say I'm available. So if there's an incident in New South Wales, not ACT, he can get called out to that.
It's such a good idea.
Oh, you want to move on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do. Again, it's a fantastic project and a really fantastic initiative. And we thank you greatly for getting it off and going. And it's so critical in our community, that this sort of gear is around. And I just think about the ones in Ainsley and Dixon, the number of areas where such a device would be pretty important. And regularly used.
Wow.
Yeah. So I just think they're having people trained to be able to respond and use that kit would be just fantastic. So thanks you guys.
welcome. Thank
Really
you.
appreciate you coming along. And there's no doubt we'll get amongst the fundraising and get your content onto our websites and see what we can do.
Yeah, so there's some, this is some goodies for you guys, just, yeah. feel
Just
free to-
some information.
We don't need too many of those.
Look, I mean, one each, it's just some back, so we as community bank, which is part of Bendigo Bank, this is what we do. We are a full service bank, but then as part of Good Look, which is a parent company, we look after the financial services in Canberra. We are the purest community bank in Canberra, the only bank, we'll say big and better bank. But then any profits that we are generating, we invest them back in the local community. So for the last financial year, we've invested around $500,000 in the community. Plus in charities, not for profits. This is one of the initiatives as well. So that's what we do. When people bank with us, individual businesses, we are able to give back the profits in the community we live and we work in.
Yeah. And
So yeah,
Good plan.
Yeah, thanks very
Good
much.
work.
Much
And
appreciated.
StreetBeat would exist without.
Much appreciated. I will just say thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll send more
Thank
details and keep you up to date.
Yeah, if you can send some content to Leon and then we'll spread it to the other community. That'd be fantastic. Thank you very much. You too. You too. Really appreciate the work you're doing.
It's my semi-retirement.